Slice the Podcast is brought to you by VegaLend, a different way to get a mortgage. VegaLend provides insight and advice so you can make informed decisions for the future of your family. Welcome to Slice, Property Made Possible. We're a platform on a mission to reduce barriers to home ownership. This podcast is a safe space for our community to learn together and build the confidence required to start on their property journey. When you're ready to start, head along to slicetobuy.com and sign up for your free dashboard. So today we have Alex Manning from Unity Group here, residential building in Auckland. How are you going, Manning?
Very good, Amy. Very good, thank you.
So, Manning, can you tell us a little bit about your own business and your own experience in this area?
Yeah, sure. So I started building about 6 years ago now, and got through my apprenticeship, doing lots of new builds and renovations, and then last September, so about a year ago, I started my own building company.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going pretty well so far this year. It's just been a busy year for us this year. We've grown to, got 5 guys with me now, doing lots of jobs all over Auckland, so it's been a good time to get into it. We mostly do residential stuff, or all residential stuff basically, renovations, new builds, and decks and fences and everything in between, so
awesome.
Wide range, yeah.
Right. So can you tell us a little bit about what you look out for and what makes a good property a good property?
Yeah. There's many different things that you can look out for. Every house probably has its pros and cons to it. There's no probably perfect house out there. Some of the biggest things are you with the tightness things, looking at the cladding, the roofing, and those things mainly, because you can kind of tell a lot from what a house is going to be like from those two things, and the foundation as well.
So what do you sort of look for in relation to that? Like if you just pick the cladding for, one example of what's good or bad cladding? Yeah,
so there's some claddings in the past that have gone on to become quite faulty. So that's some like monolithic ones, which is the kind of larger flat sheets of cement fiberboard that are like plastered and rendered over.
So that's your leaky homes that you're kind
of... not all of those are bad. It's come a long way, but you can quite often if you look at houses like that, you may, because the sheets are about 2.4 by 1.2 metres, so you can quite often see cracks in the joints on the plaster that'll be in the shape of those panels. So if you can kind of see those, then you can kind of ask the question of what's happening behind that. It might be fine, it might not be, but it's just, that's like a sign of something that could be investigated.
Something to look out for is one of those kind of step one building checks. Hey, as we go into this detail, I'm sort of thinking, you feel like there's something missing? Like maybe...
Yeah, I can't help but feel...
I don't feel, prepared for today's episode.
I agree.
I think maybe we just need a little extra something. I'm loving it. I am loving it.
Feels better. Feels right.
I feel safe. For those that can't see us, we now have a couple of groovy little hard hats on us.
Right on.
Looking good. Looking very good.
You were saying, Manning. So cladding, that's one of the key things to look out for when it comes to leaky homes. What other kind of key things do you look for before kind of considering a house as a good property to invest in? Roofing and stuff, checking the state of the roof and that it's looking good. There's those old flat roofs. They're the torch-on membrane, which have can have failed sometimes. So it's just kind of looking out for those things. And I just think like an iron roof, a colour steel roof that's just a long run and it just goes from top to bottom in full sheets. That's a really good roof to look out for. And that's the distance kind of that it comes off.
Yeah,
the building, right?
Yeah, so having the eaves and the soffit, because even if it's like...
Soffit, which is actually a word that Manning taught me, but soffit, pronounced...
soffit.
Soffit, okay.
Oh,
soffit.
See, I wouldn't have known that.
It's soffit. It's
soffit.
It said soffit, yeah. I think the Americans say soffit, but anyway. But that's basically the soffit's like the eave of the house, and it's always good to look for properties that have the roofing come out over the soffit and then go into a gutter that's external from the building envelope.
So basically in layman's terms, when the roof is kind of having a bit of clearance or coming out from the actual building, so the water runs out and not down kind of the walls.
So if there's ever a problem with the gutters overflowing or one of those things, the problem is outside the framing and the structure of the building. So if there's any damage, it's not going to be too detrimental to the structure or the house and the cladding. Another thing so the most important thing, one of the most important things with cladding is looking out for like the junctions in cladding. So that's when there's like external corners of a house or internal corners, or there's two roofs meeting, because junctions are where there's, the cladding separated and you have to have flashings and stuff in there, but that's where you'll find most problems is in those junctions.
So how would you kind of look out for that if you were a first home buyer going to look at a house? Like, would you just be in the corners, kind of like what can you see?
Yes, you want to have a look and you can kind of see if there's been, moisture get into those junctions by weatherboards may swell, and if they swell, you can usually see that the paint's kind of cracked because the timber's expanding. So if you look for like cracks in the paint, or you look for like kind of bubbles in the timber, or if you just touch and it's soft and comes away, you can kind of look for those.
So is that normally kind of the, along windowsills or like along the floorboards as well?
Yeah, so if you go inside, so that was looking, if you're on the outside of the house looking at the cladding.
Right, so when you're outside you can see kind of swelling as well, but also you might be able to see signs.
Correct. Inside, so if you go inside you can kind of see similar things in the skirting or the flooring, or as you said, if the windows aren't sealed properly, you may see some water damage or softness in the timber jambs around the house. And I mean you can get a bit of condensation that can cause that, but that doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's more like consistent water kind of getting there. So it's very good to go, if there's superficial damage to a house in the paint or the jib or the plasterboard or parts of that, that's usually a sign that something's happening. So then it's trying to figure out what's happening to cause those things. So it's kind of look out for small superficial damage inside the property, and then looking behind that and kind of
making some assumptions around what might be causing that damage. So that first kind of, I guess, key tip or thing to look into is, my hat's sliding back, is sort of all water related, really, right? Like looking where the entry points or like, of the I guess like the exterior kind of cladding. And then also internal kind of surfaces to look to see is there any water damage, and therefore could this be costly down the line?
Yeah, exactly right. Because if you do find if you do buy a house and you find water damage, water ingress, and it's done damage to the framing, if we were to come in and repair a small section of that, being a licensed builder, you have a responsibility to actually like make sure that the house is fully sorted when you're finished. So you may take out one bit, and you may end up, so you have to go a metre past the last bit of rot.
Right.
If repairing it. So if there's a small here, if you go a metre that way, repair all of that.
And all of a sudden that becomes very expensive.
So even suddenly, the rot might carry on 4 metres, and you've got to go, and you end up like going half around the house to fix that. So you might end up, a small job might end up becoming recladding a large section of your house. That could be very expensive.
I've actually had this experience with
really?
property.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, 1 year into buying.
Yeah. What happened there, Deej? Did you just?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's maintenance comes at some point, right?
Yeah.
So there was like an old sink system in my property. It's an old, like early 90s home.
Yeah.
And there was a leak in some of the pipes that went through into the wall, and it just all that would just swallow it all up, unfortunately. So they had to cut,
large sections
further
out.
sections.
Correct,
Unfortunately.
What would be kind of the other thing that you'd look for, like going in? So I think you can, look at what the exterior like is made of, and look at the windows and the floorboards for water damage. But what would be kind of the other thing? Like, I know you helped me look at a lot of houses.
Yes, I did.
And I started learning things, and I would go look at by myself, and then I would look for things.
No. I think I got a nice card and a bottle of wine or something.
Yeah, I repaid you something. Which actually brings us to a good point, actually, around like what do you think the value is in taking friends who are builders round to see houses, or like how can people kind of, before getting that building report done, how can you kind of eliminate some of those properties? Like, do you recommend taking a friend round? I feel like you're going to have to say yes because you came with me.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because I've done it for lots of friends, but like quite often I'll get people when I was like, if you see a house you like, send me the trade me link, and I can quite often, even just looking at photos, be like, oh, this is a house worth pursuing and looking into, or it's not worth your time, just look somewhere else. But I think it's good to get me there because I can go there for 20 minutes.
Are you offering this to everyone in the community?
Pro bono services from Alex.
Yeah, I'd say if you're in my circle of friends, I'll do it for
sure.
pro bono. But but I can kind of go there and kind of and see things that you might not be able to see, and then kind of and point them out to you, and then you can make an offer with that kind of information, and kind of maybe gauge what you're offering on a house to kind of suit some of the problems that may be there, and be like, oh, this is going to need a bit of fixing, and kind of take that into account.
Yeah. So the two kind of tips that we've probably taken away so far is A, like look for that water damage, and then B, look that there are methods that are kind of preventative to that water damage, i.e. the soffits, whatever that is. Yeah. So the clearance of the roof away from the building. But what's kind of a third tip, because good things come in threes. For someone who doesn't have your personal services and is like maybe a single female going around looking through houses, I actually did learn from you though, because I'd be like, yeah, this house has good soffits, and then I get him round afterwards, like once I'd already eliminated some of those things. So maybe like what's a third easy tip that you could give someone who's looking?
I mean, a third easy tip is looking for because the standard of building has changed dramatically over the years. So sometimes you've got to older houses and the handrails are held on by a couple of nails, or there's like structural things that, or like quite some things that can be quite unsafe. They're going to need
not up to like the code.
Yeah, like nowadays it wouldn't be close to passing. Like if you're doing a handrail now, you've got to do 1,000 different fixings, and there's a whole so
yes.
And there's a cost to bring that up. And if you've got a family, you got kids, you don't want to have a handrail of a second story deck. That's so you got to kind of looking out for things like that, or if there's things that have just worn itself out. That it's not that it's because it's a bad building. It's just it's just been through it's in its lifetime and whatnot. So, and kind of taking those things into account of, okay, we might need to fix this and fix that and blah blah. But the house is fine, but it's some things within it or around it that may need some updating.
Yeah. So kind of looking at retaining walls, looking at structures that might have been added, like a deck or like a ramp.
Yeah. So the house can be perfectly fine. Cladding and stuff in roof is nice, but you might, the retaining wall and deck and stuff that, they're designed to get wet and be out there, so it's fine. But looking at those things and kind of thinking, okay, we may need to fix and update some of this stuff, and then kind of also taking that into account.
When you're kind of thinking about how much you can afford.
How much you can afford. You might find the house you want, but you might need 30, 40 grand to kind of update some things and get them to be a bit more safer and nicer for.
Can add up, huh? So Manning, going back to building reports. What do you look out for when it comes to building reports? Like, how does one actually read and understand the building report?
Good question. So I've looked at a lot of building reports, as you can imagine, but most of them that I see kind of give like a red, orange, and green light for for risk assessment of certain areas.
Not all of them, but the ones that I've preferred, probably as someone that knows very little, is something that's broken down really simple like that. So there are some great kind of and you can get samples of reports, but green.
Yellow,
I
think the ones that have the kind of risk assessment of like red, orange, green, or yellow, whatever it is, is very good, because if you're looking at it, you can kind of get an understanding. If you're seeing heaps of red lights or heaps of green ones, you can kind of look at it and be like, okay, well, this is good or bad, without having to seek outside help. But it's just working through it, and I always tell people the most important thing to get right first, if you're doing renovations and stuff, is get your foundation right, and then get your cladding and your roofing right, and then start working the inside. Because if you do it the other way, then you may put in a nice new kitchen or walls, but it may just get damaged or something wrong. So you always want to start from the outside and work in. So I mean, going through a report, again, the most important things are looking for
are looking at the cladding and the roof, and they have photos of everything. They're very invasive, the reports, and
Moisture readings?
And look at the moisture readings for sure.
Right.
For sure, the moisture readings. I mean, quite often you can find higher readings in bathrooms, which is fine. But you can also, well, it's not fine, but it's more common in those areas. But you can, if the house is on a timber subfloor, you can also get like under the house, and you can kind of look at the floor joists and the subfloor from below. And if you see water stains or water marks or a bit of damage underneath that plumbing in the bathroom or laundry, you can kind of be like, okay, well, there must be a leak out there. But quite often you may find higher moisture readings just from a bath overflowing or something but you go underneath and the actual floor and all the framing timber is actually like mint. So
you want to basically get under the house and see if there are high moisture readings, if there is some damage there.
I actually had another similar problem.
Oh, really?
Sounds like I inherited a disastrous house.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there was a shower in the property in the bathroom that clearly that just been used like aggressively.
Yeah.
And the water
because the bottom of the shower or something and how that's fixed, that can cause leaks or something, can't it?
Yeah. So the shower tray has an upstand that's I don't know, like 20 mil high, and you basically cut the jib around it so the jib sits on top of that, and then your shower liner spans over both of those, and you silicone in behind it, so the water has to go down, under, and back up and over. So, but lots of older showers haven't got as much protection there. So I've done I've probably done like 30 showers this year. Just putting out a shower, fixing a bit of framing timber, putting jib back on, and putting your shower in. And it's not too hard most of that because it's usually the problem is usually pretty like centralised to where the shower is. But I've done
just something worth checking. Yeah. If you do have some reds in there, like what can you do? I mean, I know even if it is something that, this is something that I've done before actually with Vinning, but is get a quote for the repairs and then kind of show that to the seller so that you can get a negotiation or you can talk about price based on on that.
Yeah, I did one for another friend of mine recently while this lady did some work for. And she was looking at buying a house in Stanmore Bay, and she sent me a building report, and it was quite a mess. And the quote to fix the work was going to be like over 100K, and I basically said, you shouldn't buy this house.
Did she buy the house?
No, she didn't.
Yeah.
No, she didn't.
I guess the thing is, though, if there are maybe some things that aren't going to be up to 100K, or I guess maybe if you can't interpret the building report, maybe you can ask for a quote based on, the works that are being outlined as being read, and then you can get an understanding of how dire that, the state of the building is. And then if it is that it's going to be 30K, 40K, you can present that to the seller and say, hey, I want a price reduction because it's going to cost me this much to do these works. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it depends what the reads are on, if you start to read things, serious problems with the structure or the cladding or, things like that, then that's quite a big one. But if it's like minor, like as I said, there's like a handrail that's loose or there's like something small in it, so it kind of depends on what it is and how bad it is.
If it's water related though, for the most part, you advise no.
If it's structural, or not no, but if it's structural or it's weather tightness involved, then I would say that if you are really serious in the house, it's worth getting a builder to go with you and look at it and kind of really assess those certain areas and just look into as much as you can and then kind of work out like a rough cost of what it would be, because then that will help the buyer kind of understand whether or not it's if they can afford it or it's worth doing it. So I think if it's structural or it's weather tightness, things like that, I think it's worth getting a builder in to really go in on those places and kind of work out
and give a quote.
Yeah, and give a quote or an estimate for the work, because it's pretty hard to quote for that. But you give an estimate for it. But I mean, there could be small things that might come up red, but that's and you can probably be like, oh, that's fine, you can fix it up, it's minor, blah blah blah. So,
but again, if there's reds there, then it's kind of about, you've got that building report, but it's actually about getting into a bit more of that detail with the builder that did it for you, or with another builder to get that estimate.
I think I mean, I think if you're serious on a house and there's some things that are highlighted, it's worth getting it,
someone else in to, even someone separate from the building report person, because he might have another opinion or see some things he might have missed, so you get someone else in, you can really go over the specific areas that are highlighted, and then you can get a really good understanding of what's actually happening.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for joining us and for helping me into my first home. If anyone, I'll pay you in referrals if anyone's interested in construction or needs support with residential building. Alex from Unity Group is your man. It's been amazing having you on this episode. Next episode we'll be having Corinne from Bailey's on and learning about all things making an offer and auctions.
Thank you for joining our community. Buying property isn't easy, but listening in will get you one step closer on your journey. Please leave an Apple or Spotify review and provide feedback so we can improve your experience. Join our Facebook group, A Safe Space to Learn Together, or follow us on Instagram at @slicetobuy. If you have any questions or topics you would like us to touch on, you can email us at hello@slicetobuy.com. A quick reminder, Slice the podcast does not provide personalised investment advice. We are not acting as financial advisors or taking into account your circumstances. To get personalised advice, join us at slicetobuy.com and engage with our partners who can act as your financial advisor or lawyer and support you with your specific needs.